Hello, and welcome back to Truth Talk, a show where we discuss the current situations that face our lives, our communities, and our nation. I'm your host, Melanie Keenan, and joining me today is our guest panelist. And first, I would like to welcome Bill Coffman. Welcome, Bill.
Hello, Melanie. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
And Brandy Hunt. Brandy, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And last but never least, we have David William Buckland.
Hello, everyone.
Tonight, we're going to continue our conversation about the election 2020. We're still in the aftermath. We are still waiting to see who is president-elect, or we're waiting for the other side to decide to accept who is president-elect. Because the statement, President-elect Joe Biden, it gives two things. One, fear and trembling and anger, or it gives you elation and relief. For the first time in America, there's this enormous division of our country, down to our personal relationships, all the way to the nation after the election is over. I would like to ask the panel to just share a little bit this week if they've encountered anything that is in effect of not having a president-elect, or with the news coming out saying Joe Biden is president-elect and Trump's team saying, nope, we are going to completely not accept that. And we want recounts and all that's going on. So do you have any firsthand experience in this?
Well, I would imagine we all do. I can't imagine. In my world, everybody's talking about it. That's pretty much it. And that's on both sides. I've got a lot of friends and family that are on the opposite side of me politically. But when you come to the worldview that I possess, you can have the exact opposite view and be my very best friend in the world, because I'm not going to throw you out of my life because you disagree with me. So therefore, I have a lot of people that are opposite to me. That's all anybody's talking about. I mean, this is the craziest one. 2000 was kind of a crazy election, but we've already forgotten it and moved on. This is not going to be forgotten and moved on. The whole 2020 is not going to be forgotten and moved on. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into some of the things that we've learned, or what people have said, but I don't care who you are, you've got to be talking about this, because this is craziest time I've ever seen.
Brandy or David, you have anything that you want to share about this week's election process?
Sure. The more the year goes by, the more you see people's personality, and you just like, okay, I didn't know, I guess for me personally, no matter who becomes the president, my job still stays the same, which is running my company, but more, I'm still going to be the same person that tries to affect my community, no matter who wins. Somebody's got to lose. That's just this name of the game. And I'm not going to dislove, like Bill just said, I'm not going to dislove someone because the other guy got picked, when that still doesn't affect my ability to help my community, which is what God told me to do. So I guess my take on it is I saw a lot of people upset, especially because a woman of color was going to be in the White House. I saw a lot of people left social media and went to some other social media platform where they were praising, Trump and him, maybe the ballot's going to be overturned. So it was like they all just started shutting their accounts down. And I was like, wow, like I'm never knew that it was such a big deal, because we still all got to put our pants on the same way. We still gonna go in our same kitchen. I know some of the legislation is going to change. I think somebody said the gas or the taxes. That's happened before though, so that's not anything new, and it's not like we can control it now. The vote's already been cast. everything's already done. So getting mad about something that's already done seems to me a little redundant. But yes, I saw plenty of hate being spewed. It's very disheartening, and to say the least.
And I want to segue that, because tonight what we want to talk about is the fact that it is a divided country. Normally in elections, and after all the previous elections, there are always changes with a change of president, a change of staff and legislation and Congress and Senate. There's always going to be changes and legislation passed and laws made. But now it's like our conduct as human beings, as United States citizens, has been affected to the point where we are changing who we are down to the core of humanity. And that has never happened before. And so I want to talk tonight, how do we respond? How are we supposed to continue the next path? Whether you are a Trump supporter and you believe that the votes need to be recounted, or whether you are a Biden supporter and you are already celebrating the next move into the White House, why is that affecting the core of humanity? Because we've been able to, as a nation, have difference of opinions. We have been able, as a nation, to be able to vote in a president, and if we don't like that president, it's okay. We still support it, or we go on. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. How are we supposed to do it? And the base of this comes from 1 Peter in the Bible, 1 Peter 1:13-15. And it simply says, abbreviated form, that we are to, well, first is my typo. First, we are to keep our minds for action, to gird our minds for action, keep sober in spirit, to fix our hope completely on the grace to be brought to us, that we are to be holy in our behavior. And then also verse 17-19, paraphrasing, says to conduct yourselves in fear during our stay upon the earth, knowing that we are redeemed with the blood of Christ. Those facts didn't change because who was elected president. We still have a role here on earth in this country to stay in a Christian mindset. Yes or no?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm a person that, if you listen to this show at any other time, you'll realize that I'm a little cautious on pushing my political views on the show, but it doesn't mean I don't have them. Okay, I definitely have them, and it doesn't take long to figure out what they are. And I fit pretty much my mold. I'm a soldier and a cop, okay? But much bigger than that, I'm a Christian, and I want to look to eternity, and I'm always trying to do that. I fail all the time. But if I get completely stuck in the temporal, then I probably would be upset right now, more so than I am, not because of who's winning, but just because of how it's worked out. I know that night of the election, then they stopped counting. I was like shocked. I never heard of such a thing. And then when you wake up the next day, everything's changed. And, I get the argument saying that it's because of the mail-in ballots and all that stuff. And that's probably true. I have no problem with that. I'm going to let other people work that out. I can't have anything to do with it because I don't have anything to do with it, so I can't. But this is the most divided one I've seen. However, the last one wasn't accepted in 2016. If you remember, that really has never been accepted by the people that didn't like Trump. And they did everything they could to overturn it for 4 years. If that turns out the same way this time, with Biden being president, and the Republicans do everything in their power to overturn it, they're not in the House, so they really can't do investigations and try and impeach and all that kind of stuff. They can't do it. But I would be against that, because I was against it this last time because I think it was a political process, and I'm against it this time. And I remember, I'm older, so you young people don't remember this, but Bill Clinton was impeached back in the late 90s, and he was impeached, but he wasn't voted out of office. Same thing with the same situation as now, only 20 years ago. But I was praying for Bill Clinton, and I didn't vote for him. I prayed for him to not be removed from office because I felt it would be very divisive for my country, for the United States that I served both in the military and everything else. I said, no, please don't do that. And I would be doing the same thing now. I don't want to divide the whole place over this. I don't want to be fighting in the streets and hating each other over something as temporal as politics, even though I think politics is very important.
And David, I want to pass this to you because I know that if I can put you on the spot, the need to do something. Do you have a need, feel a need to do something? I know, like before the show aired, you you mind if I share this?
No, I don't mind.
All right. You had a Trump mask on, and I had asked, what message is that? There you go. There's your Trump mask. What message is inside of you that you want out, that you would feel a need to wear a mask that says Trump? And you want to explain to us what you had said, because I think, without causing division, this is a clear set of where we are. We have, Bill Coffman, who says, you know what, I accept the process. I'm not part of it anymore. He did his part. He did his due diligence. He voted, and that's where his part ends. And now he just accepts and he prays. All right. So we have that in our society. And then we have David, who feels a need to continue to wear the Trump mask. And David, explain where you stand on this.
Well, like Bill, I've been around a little bit longer than you guys, and I had to come face to face with my social naivete. I never ever thought that Americans would have to deal with problems in their elections. It never entered my mind that people would cheat, that they would, and it's so rampantly obvious to me this time. And it seems that society has gotten to a point where if you're willing to say it and say it and mean it, it doesn't matter how outrageous your statements are or your positions are. If you want to try to convince people of something that simply is not true, open your mouth and say it. And boy, there's people out there that'll suck it right up. And I'm like, so, but I had the privilege of spending election day with you, and I get caught up in details that I have no control over. You're gonna like this one, Bill. So I'm sitting there being very rational. I'm going, okay, Senate races, House races, judges, propositions, they're all on the same ballot as president. So, to my way of thinking, nobody anywhere should know the outcome of any race until those ballots are counted correctly. And yet people are declaring and conceding, and I mean, it's bonkers. It's totally bonkers. Unless somebody is way behind or way ahead, there's no way that any of those issues or races should be known at this point. Is there?
Well, more importantly, what do you hope to do by speaking out or by wearing a Trump mask? Okay. What is the process that you hope to do or to change in the middle of that?
Well, today's Veterans Day, and well, there's two things. I'm too cheap to go out and buy another mask just because I'm like, I should be able to wear what I want to wear. Okay, so there's that. And then the only places I went today were restaurants that gave free meals to vets. Yay! So I ran into a lot of, and they were loving my mask. It was just awesome. Did I want to start any trouble? No. I know yesterday I went out shopping and stuff, and I got a lot of dirty looks. Nobody has taken action, but you could see that they were displeased. So I'm probably going to have to dig out. I've got a box of paper masks somewhere. I'm probably going to have to do that just for self-preservation. But
You
doggone,
know,
I'm allowed my opinion, you know?
and I think that, yes, you are allowed your opinion. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank all the men and women who served in our armed forces for their service today, whether you served abroad, whether you served in one of the wars, especially those in the wars. Hats off to you. We honor you for your service and your commitment to our country. And even those who prepared to serve, but were never called abroad. Thank you for your service as well. I know David and Bill, you guys are veterans. I am a veteran myself. But we give hats off to those who have had their lives changed by serving, for us to have even the freedom to stand here today and talk the way we do. All the freedoms we have were paid at the cost of lives. And so we honor you today and your family members, if they're no longer with you. But,
I'm Army, so hua for all you Army guys. But yesterday was the Marine Corps birthday, and I always think of that Iwo Jima flag.
Yes.
I always think of that. My father-in-law is a Marine, and we pick on each other and make fun of each other. But we both have shirts that pretty much put down the other. But but it's all in fun. And but the reality is anybody, Air Force, Navy. My father was a Navy man in the World War II. Marines and Coast Guard, all those people, and now the Space Force. I wish I was young. I'd join the Space Force if I was young. I want to go out in space. And but anyway, I really do respect them, and the ones doing it today aren't veterans yet, but you will be. And then all this older folks that are, yeah, this is good. Good. It's a good day and people texted me all over the world today, because I got people in other countries that are good friends that I serve with. And I got texts from every place, man. It was terrific.
That is terrific. That is terrific. It's powerful. And the armed forces, the people gave their lives and dedication for the election process. So how is it that after the election process is over, we have people like Brandy said that are changing their whole social media system? They're going into, okay, now where Trumpers are over here and Bideners are over here, and those who are satisfied with the voting count is over here, and those who don't agree with the voting count are over here. But at the basis of it, we're all still have to live our lives together, side by side, working together, living together, shopping together. And if David wears his Trump mask out and feels like he can't because he's afraid of what might approach him, or if when he wears his Trump mask out, people are offended by him to the point where they feel a need to say something, there's something wrong with who we are as a society. We are separated, supposedly, church and state. But when it comes to us as humans, do we understand the role that church has versus state has? I was given a link to an article by Jill Buckland, happens to be David Buckland's wife, and it's called A Prayer for the Country. I'll put the link the name here, Prayer for a Country by Dina Johnson Martin. It's at crosswalk.com. You can look that up. But what she was saying is this, that as Christians, we're commanded to look after orphans, widows, to care for those in need. We are commanded to pour out love and strive for unity. But our country was created to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Is there a difference between what we as Christians are told to do and what our government is supposed to be doing? Anyone want to take that question?
Well, I speak up too much, but
No, you don't.
And Yeah, I think so, because we aren't of this world. We're pilgrims on this journey. Now, once again, I am one of those people that love this country, like a lot of people do, on both sides. There's plenty of people on the other side of the political spectrum that love the country, and I'm happy. And I'm actually really thankful that I was born and raised in this country. In the history of mankind, we've really got it good, the way humans have lived their lives over the history of mankind. But we don't have it perfect. And perfection isn't heaven, and it's never going to be on this earth, not even in any country. And so even though I think we've got it pretty good and I'm thankful, I still have to set my sights to eternity. Now, I agree that David should be able to wear his mask. I think that my neighbors should be able to have their Biden sign in their car. And, I still see Obama signs. I saw a W sign the other day. That was from 2006.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty faded out, but I saw that and I'm like, you probably can get that off with a razor. And, I was just kidding. The person in my car laughed. I was like, yeah, I think if we get a razor, you can get that off. I mean, that was from, 2004. So that's a long time ago. And, but anyway, it doesn't matter. My point is, Brandy and David and Melanie, you are my brothers and sisters in Christ. If you voted for my guy or you voted for the other guy, if your guy wins, I think you should be happy. I really don't have a problem with that. And if your person doesn't win, you're probably not going to be happy. I don't have a problem with that either. To tear the system down because yours didn't win. And by the way, I understand that there's a lot of questions about this one more so than any other. I get that. But no matter what the questions are, to tear down a very successful system in the history of mankind because you didn't get what you wanted is not a good idea to me on either side. And by the way, I'll finish with this. I have a very close relative who's opposite to me, who has never accepted the last election, ever. Every time you ever talk to him, every post, everything. And it's so funny, all of a sudden he's like, well, there it is, it's done, you got to accept it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I actually think you do have to accept it, but you don't think that unless your guy wins. I think you have to accept it even if the other guy wins. And I just think that's funny. It's like, my guy won, so now you got to accept it, is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying and it's not over, but when it finally is in the electors vote, because that's when it's over, is electors voting. When that happens, then I have to accept it and move on for the next 4 years. I believe that.
I believe that too. I just on record, I agree with that. We do our due diligence. The process has to take its place. Now, I don't know. There's whether or not there's voter fraud. I don't know whether or not there isn't voter fraud. I have not been privy to be part of that process. Maybe someone listening has been involved, in the vote counting or something like that, and they have been part of that process, and they have to decide what do they do with that. If you're part of the process and you saw voter fraud or you saw votes not being counted or added or anything illegally done on either party, it doesn't matter what party it was, you are to speak up. But now for us that are just on the outside, right now, you can't trust the media, period. You just can't. It's going to tell you one thing. I was watching over the couple of days, you have some shows that says the media won't show this. And then you have other shows that says the media won't show this. Well, then what are they showing? Because neither side say they're showing their side, but yet we're getting fed stuff. And I think we have to keep our mindset, like you said earlier, Bill, that if we focus on the temporal, if we focus on what is being fed to us in the media, we are going to get angry and mad and disingenuous, and we're going to forget about the big scope of things. And so we can't do that. Does that mean we're ignorant and we don't follow what's going on? No. We can't just put our head in the cover and say whatever happens. And that's where we want to go to in the next show. We want to talk about that. Like, maybe we'll have a closer picture, I don't know, in a week of who the president is, but I want to talk about, okay, Biden, what's he going to do? What's his stand? And go over some of those points. So we can talk about, to be prepared for some of the changes that are going to come, because there's going to be changes, of course, like Brandy said. Brandy, you got anything you want to add right now?
I do. Well, I think that the biggest thing is that the current president has said several degrading things just to women. And so when you're talking about him continuing maybe another 4 years, it's not just that your guy won, it's that now I have to tolerate some behavior that I was expecting was not going to have, I was going to have to tolerate it another 4 years. Does that make sense? So it's not just like a Cowboys game versus a Patriots, and then we get to watch them play again next Sunday and then root for our guy, a whole season. That's not the same thing here. You're talking about a man who said it was okay to grab my crotch, got to be in office again for 4 more years. So when you see somebody celebrating that I might just be able to see have a president that doesn't tweet about me on a low degrading level. Not that say the new guy, we don't know what he's capable of, but we do know what the current one has already presented just in that small space. So I think the uproar of people wanting Trump out and Biden in really doesn't have anything to do with politics at all. I think it comes down to his personality.
Yeah, I actually think that that's true, but not always, because there's definitely politics involved, because there are people who have two different views, and there always have been, and it's almost always 51 to 49%. I mean, that, and this way this time, but you can't take out of the equation the non-polished way of this particular guy speaking now, because this is the truth. I mean, that is. Now, my question was posed to me during the election, not after, was this person asked me what I thought about this, and I said something, and they said, well, because I brought that up, I said, well, there's a lot of people that can't stand the guy because the way he talks, and they can't stand Trump because the way he talks. And the person said, yeah, that's true, I get that. He goes, but I can't stand the way politicians talk, because of all these politicians my whole life, and this is a person older than me, said all they do is tell me what I want to hear. They do whatever they want to do. They never fulfill their promises, ever. He goes, my whole time I've never watched anybody go down the list of their promises and try and do them, except for this guy, who should probably keep his mouth shut more often. But the other side of the coin is, do you want somebody to pat you on the back and tell you how great you're doing as they're ready to fire you at the business? Or do you want the mean boss that says, you're screwing up, get it right, or you're going to be fired? I don't know. And by the way, I don't know. And I'm going to say this, I'm leaving it in the hands of God, because no person is by any means perfect. And I see flaws in me. I see flaws in everybody I know, except for Melanie. And just kidding. But the reality is I've got to put my mind in the big picture, because you may hate Biden right now. If you're a person that hates him, don't hate him. Don't do it. He's a flawed individual because he's a person. But if he becomes president, you need to pray for him. And you need to not support him like, oh, I agree with your policies, because that's silly. But if you don't agree with the policies, then don't. I'm not telling you to do that. But the hatred that I've seen over the last 4 years of writings and everything because people don't get their way, that's what I'm trying to avoid. And I hope we can. Regardless, although I'm not all that optimistic about it. I mean, I can still see some pathways that are going to cause me to be mobilized and have to be out there on this. We haven't had much, though. I will say that. We have not. And I'm glad.
I think it is more of whether you voted Biden in or just voted Trump out. I think a lot of people that I've encountered and talked with, they didn't necessarily vote Biden in. They just needed to get rid of Trump. And it wasn't based solely on politics, but it was based on the way he talks and his tweeting. It irritates people what he tweets and how he is outspoken and how he has disrespected women. But then you got to look at, has anyone looked at Biden? There's really a plus and minus on both sides. For me, I'm asking people, and I'm just going to say this because this is my viewpoint. You guys have given yours. I don't understand voting in someone who has Alzheimer's. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's my personal opinion. He has too many memory issues. He has too many signs that there's just something medically going on with him to be a president of the country. So it's not about voting Biden in. It was about voting Camilla in, right? It wasn't about Biden. If there was not a Camilla, would there have been a Biden even on the ticket that anyone would be confident in voting in? So I don't think it was even about him being president. It was about who was the vice president, who was going to be the one with him deciding and making choices and running the country, because I don't think anyone has confidence that Biden can do that, you know?
And in that case, I think you're right about even the ones that maybe didn't take it that far, but they don't like Trump so much that they're willing to vote for anything against him. And that's your right. I mean, see, that's just it. Whenever you're a freedom guy, liberty person, then that's your absolute right. And I'll drive you down to the polls and vote against me, because that's your right. But you wouldn't be, in that case, you may be surprised later on and go, well, this isn't what I wanted. And you may be happily surprised that this is exactly what I wanted. But when you're voting against the personality, or even for the personality, then their policies, which are going to make a difference, might surprise you, you know, to the good or bad.
Can I chime?
Yes, go ahead, David.
Okay. So, Brandy, with total respect, I did a lot of door knocking, and I ran into a fair amount of Republicans that had decided that they were going to vote for Biden for the exact reason that you listed. And may I say, with great respect, I think you guys drank the Kool-Aid, because...
Well, no, I don't think you can, David. I want to stop you, because I don't think we're going to speak to anyone like that. I think everyone has a right to say what they believe and be heard and respected. If you have to say with all due respect, you're about to not respect them. So I do have to put a stop to that comment. You know, you can say what you think about Biden or Trump, but not what about someone else who voted for either or has not done.
Trying to speak to the issue. It just happened to come out of Brandy's mouth. Unfortunately, I'm not addressing Brandy, really. I'm addressing the issue. Whatever the accuracy of that recording is, it happened years ago. We don't even really know that it was Trump. We don't.
I'm gonna stop, David, because I was actually about to say, this was what I was about to say. I was actually about to say, before you said, can you chime in? I was going to say, here we are, 4 people. We got Trump supporters and Biden supporters, and we're not having to hash out what we disagree with. We're able to say who we voted for without pulling up disagreements and pulling up, you know, well, you said this, so now I can say this. It's not a tit for tat, because...
Let's trying to make it a tit for tat. I truly, I don't know if you can see where I'm going with this, Bill, but, you know, I think a lot of people, I mean, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people got distracted by this video, which is exactly why it was released. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, politics is rough, and it's rough on both sides. And I'm never going to pretend it isn't, because I remember the one with Romney where they were talking about this dog on top of the roof, you know, of his car. You know, he was an animal abuser of some sort. And I mean, this has gone on forever. And by the way, it goes back and forth both ways. And people made a big deal on the gaffes that, you know, that Biden said, and then other people make a big deal on the tweets that Trump does. It is a divided thing. And I think it's because it's so personal. Like Brandy said, and I really, Brandy's my new friend because of this show. And this is it. I don't actually know Donald or Joe. I called them by their first name on purpose because I don't know. If I would have met either one of them, I wouldn't call them Donald or Joe. And because I don't know them, okay? But I know Brandy, and I love Brandy. And I don't have to agree, and she doesn't have to agree with me on anything political. The only thing I think we have to agree on, and we do need this one, is Jesus Christ and Him crucified.
Yes.
The Apostle Paul said that I determined to know nothing amongst you save Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Now, this is the guy that God chose to write most of the New Testament. This is the guy that in the desert somehow Jesus spoke to him personally, possibly took him up to heaven. I don't know. He didn't know. He goes, maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. Look, we don't even know, but we do know this. God chose him to write Romans. That's a man that knows a whole lot.
Yes.
And he said, but I really only know this, Jesus Christ and Him crucified. You believe in Jesus, and that's enough for me that you and I will live for eternity in heaven.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm very political, so I don't want to downplay it. I happen to be very involved with politics, but I'm also very involved with the gospel, and I'm more involved with the gospel than I am with politics. And I never want to divide people over the fact that I voted for Ronald Reagan in my first election. You know, I'm using that one to go back in the past. I don't want that to be the division. I don't want the Dodgers Giants. Our pastor is a Dodgers fan. I'm a Giants fan. I know, Brandy, you use that analogy of sports, and it's not the same thing, and it isn't. You're right. But you know, there's actually been people that have killed each other because they're a fan of one team over another. I mean, the insanity of that. That's what I want to avoid the best I can. And the scripture, and I got to get going to my Bible study, but the scripture says that as much as lies within you, David and Brandy and Melanie and Bill, as much as lies within you, live peacefully with everyone. And that means that when somebody shows up with a bumper sticker in their car of the other guy, then you need to still smile and be nice to that person, because as much as lies within you, live peacefully with all people. Now, they're not going to take you back that way, by the way. So do not expect that in return, because it's not going to happen.
And we're going to go forward after Bill leaves. I know Bill has to go to do his Bible study, and you can catch him at 7:00. Let me put up your tag at facebook.com/BillandBarbara.Coffman at 7:00 for his Bible study, which is amazing, by the way. But I do want to say this, you know, I too am political. I have my views. But the debate on what each president-elect did or didn't do, that time is over. Now it's in the hands to decide who won, whether it's recounting or just accepting. However the process is going to do, they're recounting a lot of states. We're going to see what that recounting does. But the time to say, well, this is true about one and not the other, that time has passed, because the election is over. So that's why I just want to clarify why I didn't want to go into, well, your guy did this, but my guy did this, or my guy did this, and that time has passed for us. As a country and as individuals, we need to be able to say, all right, there's no more debate about who did what. It's just, let's see what the votes say. Let's see what the due process of law is going to say, who is our president. And then we go there in love and in peace. And I want to talk about going forward. But first, we'll say goodbye to Bill as he goes. And don't forget to check him out on his Bible study.
I just want to say I've known David for years, and he's a fabulous man. I've known David and Brandy for a few months, and she's a fabulous woman. I've known Melanie for a long time, and she's a fabulous woman. And that's the thing that I want to always remember, is who everybody is, not what they're necessarily, political views. Who are you? And I like every one of these people a great deal. Two of them I've known a long time recently. I hope you even like me.
I think we like you too, Bill. Have a good week.
That's all I'm hoping for. Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Brandy and David, here we are. And remembering one thing, and that is that God controls the hearts of kings. Throughout the Bible, we can see who's in place. Even the Pharaoh, with letting the Israelites go, God hardened his hearts. He is the one who controls the hearts of kings. So whether it's Biden or Trump in presidency, whether it's Camilla in presidency after a while because Biden can't do his job, we got to understand, one, that God, the Lord, is sovereign. He is sovereign, and that nothing can touch us that's not sifted through his hands. Now, we do have a due diligence, because I want to talk about going forward. How do we go forward? Because we got to get past the part that we just encountered, honestly. We got to get past the part of defending and hating, because that doesn't matter anymore. You know, I can pull up a lot of issues I have for Biden and a lot of issues I have for Trump. I have issues on both sides. And that's where America mostly stood, right? That no one really wanted either candidate, but we accepted, as many people said, the lesser of two evils, whichever one you thought that was, for whatever purpose. So I want to give you guys a chance to say anything before we look forward on what do we do now, because I have a couple of things that I want to bring up.
I mean, I was getting ready to say, for me, I have a criminal justice degree. I don't know if y'all know that or not. Of course I do. I have all kind of stuff in my back pocket. And so I definitely want to, just identify what some issues are that are higher up issues that I can address in the community. Because at the end of the day, I'm not in DC and I'm not going to the White House. Sure. But, I can make a change. And I do believe that God has sent me as a messenger. I'm a vessel of peace. People tell me that all the time. You're so peaceful. You know how to unify people. And I can use that gift right where I am, no matter who wins. Do I want to see a woman of color? Yeah, but she's not, unless Jesus come back tomorrow, and it sometimes looks like he is, but she's not the only woman who may grace the stage of, the White House. Michelle Obama's already been in there, but it just feels good to see somebody that looks like you. It's been wrong to be Black our whole life. And so just to see somebody get a position of power, yeah, we're going to clap. But at the end of the day, God gave us, before we even got here, our assignments. And so he gave us the power before we even got here. So I think societally, we hear those things of positions of power. It's like, oh, yes, but God gave us power before we got here. So we already have a position of power. We just got to use it in the communities and the neighborhoods where we are. And so for me, my going forward will be to use some of the influence, and even maybe write political books, get people to write like David. You have a stance on why you like what you like. Maybe that's a message and a voice that you need to put in writing and get it out to the people. So there's so many other ways we can be heard. I don't think the anger is going anywhere. I think it's just it's routed up in people at this point. Peaceful people will stop. They'll eventually be like, you know what, okay, let me go back on my post. But people who are really, an arm gonna be an arm, a leg gonna be a leg. If God, what you said, controls the hearts of kings, there could be righteous anger. There could be anger that needs to be had, but all of us don't have to be angry. Some of us got to be working. I believe Nehemiah said they prayed and worked at the same time. There was work, there's people working, there was people praying. So you got to know what your post is in the season so that you can get your work done and not believe that the power is coming later. The power is already here. We just got to tap into what we can do now. That was probably a lot.
No, that's a lot, and it's great. But I want to let David have his time, and then I'll clean in.
I don't. I just want to apologize. I must have seriously misstated myself, and I apologize for offending you.
You're fine. I'm not. You're fine. I'm not offended.
I actually want to run so bad, so I don't know what's.
Oh, you're fine, David. No.
Oh no,
I'm good.
I want to answer a question that Melanie asked.
what can we do in spite of what's going on around us? And I've tried to do that, and that is that you can't. None of us can fix the world. We can be helpful to those around us that are in need, and the first step of that is, of course, to be paying attention, because a lot of people, they don't pay any attention to what's happening with their neighbors or their friends, and that I'll use the word skill that the Lord has helped me to develop, and I try very hard to make myself available. In fact, okay, you saw this in my book, Melanie. To me, the word responsibility is actually two words. If I have the ability, I believe, if I have the ability to somehow make a positive change in someone's life, financially, physically, emotionally, whatever it is, then I feel it's my responsibility to make an effort to do so. It's not a matter of, well, I don't know them or I don't owe them anything. That doesn't come into the equation at all. It's like, okay, there's somebody in need. I recognize that need, and I should ask them, would you like some help? Can I help you in this way? And that's how I try to lead my life, regardless of what is going on around me. And so I hope I answered your question.
Well, I think that, this just shows the emotion that we have in our communities. The emotion that we've had here today, the empathy, but yet the stand. The understanding and compassion and love, but yet the stand. There's so much that we have been built up over 4 years that is in us regarding this election and the outcome, and we're all holding our breath, waiting for, okay, what's the final show? What's the final thing? And I think for those who are Trump supporters, they're holding their breath and they're holding it tight, hoping it gets redone. The Biden supporters are celebrating, but they're holding their breath and saying, but what if it gets redone? There's still that breath that we're not breathing. And I think tonight, even though the conversation got a little bit rough and a little bit uncomfortable, it was a conversation that needed to happen to show those that are viewing, those that are listening, that it is okay to be emotional about this. But the outcome of it has to be what we exhibited here today, which is love and understanding.
Right.
We still love and understand each other. There's no hardness. There's no anger towards one another. And I love that Brandy said, going forward, Brandy, you are going to focus on being who God created you to be, taking the power that God gave you into your community and changing lives where you are. And David, your answer is to serve your community, to love one another, to serve your community, regardless of who is in power. For me, the answer is to know all I can about the president-elect, to know his agenda, to know the agenda of the office that is going to take precedent over my life and my family's lives, and to take those aspects, not be afraid of them, not even cheer for them if I agree with it, but to give them to God. So I'm going to be praying for the righteousness and the will for God, for his election to be done, regardless of who it is. I'm going to be praying for God to touch the hearts and mind of those in power over the laws and decisions of our lives. I'm going to be praying over the regulations, that COVID-19 regulations, they're changing every day. The vaccines that everybody is saying is 90% effective. But if you listen closely to the language, they're using language as hopefully they're 90% effective. We have a positive outlook that they might be 90% effective. We need to look at the language that we're being told and pray over that, because I'm very concerned that vaccines 90% effective is just getting out there and people are going to jump on it and take it without knowledge or wisdom or understanding, and without, or they're going to not take it without understanding that, yes, it's going to be our choice, but I don't believe it'll be fully a choice. I think you're going to have consequences of that choice. So everyone's like, oh, but it's freedom because we'll choose. But listen to the language. I don't believe we're going to, yes, I will be able to choose if I have a vaccine or not. But I think there's going to be consequences if I choose not. And I think there's going to be rewards if I choose to. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be praying over the taxes, as I believe it was Brandy who said there's going to be tax changes if we have a transfer of power. The regulations over structure and automobile compliances. See, these are the things that Bill was talking about. Politically, there are things at risk that will change our society. It's not only that Trump is a hard man that has a history of verbally, I want to say correctly, of verbally, abusing women verbally, in thought or theory or in action. I can't say the action. I've not witnessed it myself. Then you have Biden, who people are saying, he's got an illness and he can't run the president. It doesn't really matter. These laws are going to change regardless who it is. There's going to be political adjustments in our lives. And I think that we have to be responsible with that aspect. We can't just put our head in the sand as Christians and say, I'm just going to love people. Whatever happens, I think we also have to take on and get educated on what the president-elect Trump or president-elect Biden is going to do to our government and to our nation. And then, once we have that, we can take the power in our community, the love, embrace our community, and usher, as God tells us to usher, into this new season. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I want to add in, yesterday or Monday or Tuesday, all the days run together this year. You're like, what day is it? But I have posted, when women support each other, the world changes. That's all it said. And it said, I do business coaching. And so I told all my women friends to drop their business links. A man came on my post and said, why didn't you say support everyone, girls?
Girl.
Mm-hmm. So I deleted it. And the Holy Spirit said, ask him why he said it. I would have, now I told y'all probably don't know, I would have just deleted it and kept going, because I don't know you. You never said nothing on no other post, but this apparently triggered you some kind of way. I don't know if it was the woman or if it was another one of the Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter kind of thing. And I was like, I don't want to fight. I'm a peacemaker. And so the Holy Spirit said, ask him why he said it. So I went to his inbox and I said, hi, how are you doing? Just wanted to know why you made the comment on my post. And he said, I'm glad you came. And I was like, oh, great. This is about to be a lesson. And so he said, where I'm from, we support all people. And I was like, where are you from? And he was like, and I said, well, let me explain first. And he said, no, he asked, he said, will you promise to talk to me for understanding and not be offended? And I said, that's a fair question, right? Because, I'm coming to you like, hey, bro, like, why did you do that? And so he said, I want understanding and I'm not here to offend. And I said, well, me neither. So, because I want to know why you said what you said. And so after about a couple of minutes of dialogue, he basically did it. When I explained, I'm a business owner. I wasn't trying to leave anybody out. I love men, all men, Black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, whoever. I love all people. It was just that's my target audience. And it was really a plug to get, business and clients. But, he's like, oh, I understand. He said, I never knew that. He's from England. And I asked him why he used girls. And he said, because you're a girl. And I said, but my post started out with women and you ended with girls. And he said, oh, I didn't know that was offensive because where we're from, we say whatever their lingo, hey girls. And I was like, well, I do that too. I might be like, hey girl, hey. And so in that moment though, I told him, I said, I addressed women and you came on my post and said, girl, I automatically thought you were trying to diminish who I was. And he was like, no, I didn't. And so you see how that quick second could have caused a whole entire blow up. And so I say to people watching, David, if that kind of thing happens, even with wanting to explain drinking the Kool-Aid, hey, call me later. Let me know if there was something I missed. I am the kind of person that I want to know the big picture. At this point, maybe I did miss something. But if you see someone being mistreated, don't go in offensively. And this is not to you personally, just saying to those watching. In this season, everybody wants to be offended. Nobody wants to understand another person's plight. You have to at least listen. Even if you end, like Bill talked about, even if you end with, nope, I still like my guy and I'm still going to vote for my guy and I'm still going to drink whatever it is. But thank you for understanding. So now I don't have to be so, it's like our world is so abrasive and so condescending and disrespectful for no reason at all. Those people didn't have to look at you like that, David. They have to, they didn't have to look at you just because you had the mask, but that's how we've become so bitter towards each other when it's not necessary. It's really not necessary. We all trying to pay our bills, love each other, live another day. I hope, just trying to get to tomorrow. But it's like I'm trying to crucify you because I don't want you to. We can both win. I thought that's how this worked. I thought that both of us could win, but it's like it's becoming no. Only I want me and my people to win, and this is all kind of nationalities. It's like I want me and my people to win, and I don't want you and your people to win. And so I'm going to ban all of my people together, even though we need all of us, all the colors in the rainbow is necessary for the rainbow. So that's my take on it.
David, I'm going to give you one last shot before I respond to Brandy and close out the show tonight.
I'm just taking it all in.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And, what I love about what you said, Brandy, I can't sum it all up, but, and what I love about David and Bill and being able to do this show, if it reaches one person that can say, you know what, I do not want to be angry at someone who's different. I do want to ask questions, or I do want to educate. David has a high calling to educate people for what he thinks and how he understands things. He's typically out of the box. He really is. He's an out of box thinker. But he has a high desire to share and educate. All right. Brandy has a high desire to learn and see other people's sides, try the foot's on the other side. Brandy wants to see, is the grass greener on the other side? If it is, I'm jumping, but if it isn't, I'm staying on my own side. And I think that's the beauty of how we can get through this as a country is within your own circle. You break down the walls and say, listen, why are you so offended?
Right.
Why are you so angry about this? Did I personally do anything to you? And how can we dispel it one to another? When you see someone on social media posting all this angry stuff, just, message them if you're able to and say, hey, if you ever need to talk, I saw your message. You seem like you're having a hard time. I'm just praying for you. That's it. You don't have to continue relationships because, everybody's not safe on social media. But, we can try to understand one another better in our workplace, in our environments. We can try to understand why there's so much fear and discourse within us, within our own thought process. What does this mean for us? I have family members, not personally, but I know of family members who are leaving and moving, because they feel unsafe because of this election. And they're just packing everything up and moving. People are quitting their jobs and moving. And it's just like, okay, what is this turmoil? Because we're still in the unknown, right? We are. So this week I do pray that we do our own due diligence of homework, know what President-elect Biden or President-elect Trump, because I honestly don't know who president is. The counting isn't done, and I won't say one is one until the counting's done. That's just my stand. But once the counting is done, know that agenda. Know the policies are going to do. See how it's going to affect you, and then do your due diligence from there on. I thank you guys for joining me on this discussion again this week. And next week, we want to go over. It's almost Thanksgiving, but we do want to go over. If there's any more updates on the president election, then we'll go over that. If not, we'll switch to a different topic until the election is in. But thank you so much. If anyone here would like to know more or to participate in Truth Talk, you can go to the website, www.truthtohear.org, to learn more about Truth to Hear Ministries or Truth Talk, and to be a guest on Truth Talk, and let us hear your point of view. And don't remember, tonight and through the weeks, we salute our veterans. Yeah. Have a good night.
Good night.